Probably got a lot of note takers. All right. So I'm going to record this. I have friends that have insomnia, and they asked me to record my classes. Okay. So today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects, selling real estate. Yeah. And you should be able to see the screen. I believe Angela has a link to the folder where you'll find a PDF version of this, plus something else, which I believe is probably being shared as we go along. And why am I doing this? Right? That's a question I ask myself many times. Recently, we've had a slew of members of the team being involved in the sale of new home subdivisions. And so I have a presentation that I've done many times in the past about how to build business with new home subdivisions. We've updated it some, and there's been some changes in the economics and some of the practical matters involving this. And so I wanted to cover what would be the best practices? How can you make money with new home subdivisions? What do you need to know? All of that sort of good stuff. So we're going to talk about the shift in the California real estate market, because things are not the way they used to be. And I'm referring specifically to the relationship between real estate agents and the new home builders. We're going to talk about financing. Hence, Badal is on the call. There's financing that they push you to take because the new home builder has some sort of arrangement with the lender, but you should look at options, which we're going to talk about. How do you make sure you get paid a commission? Now, most of the time, you're being paid more like a referral agent than anything else. It's treated more like a referral fee. It goes to the broker like a referral fee, and how much commission the builder is willing to pay varies. And what makes it vary is how bad do they want to sell subdivision lots. So there was a time when they wouldn't pay anything. The reason they wouldn't pay anything is they didn't need any help selling subdivision lots. Then the market shifts. Now they're having wine and cheese parties, right? With music and catered food and all sorts of things like that. And they're offering sometimes 3%, 4%. I've even seen not that long ago, bring us a buyer because they really want to cooperate. And then what usually happens is that, first of all, a lot of real estate agents don't bother to even talk about new home subdivisions. They're not paying any attention to it. They find out that a friend is looking to buy a new home subdivision. The agent scrambles and says, hey, let me represent you. I want to represent you. And it might be too late at that part because we're going to talk about registration. And then the buyer says, well, give me half of your commission. Give me half. You're not doing anything. Right. So, why should you get to keep all of it? Give it to me. We're going to talk about how to protect yourself from that. Some things about the construction and the review, and then marketing, how to actually find people that want you to help them buy a new home subdivision. We're going to spend some time on that. So part one is the shift. Now, what I mean by the shift is that historically, if you were a real estate agent and you had buyers that wanted to buy a new home subdivision, you're making the argument that the advantage of buying a resale is that it doesn't cost as much as the new home subdivision does. Right? The new build, yeah, it's new, it's got new appliances, hasn't been lived in by anyone. So yeah, it's got all that, but you're going to be paying more if you buy the new home than if you buy a used home. That's changed. Right now, the average price in California of a new home subdivision property versus the average price of a resale, well, there's a $194,000 difference. So the median resale price of a home in California is about 784. The median price of a new home is 591. Now, your area may be different. I understand that. You don't have to say, ooh, in my area, they're more expensive. I understand that. But the difference is $194,000. It's actually cheaper to buy a new home in California, in most places, than a used one. Now, they're not exactly the same. The new homes don't have great big lots. Not everybody wants one. There's a higher percentage of them. Almost 20% of all the homes being built that are new are townhouses, right? Shared walls, very small lot, but then much cheaper to build. So if you want a big backyard and you don't want neighbors very close to you, that's a resale. But for people that are strapped for cash, that are having trouble qualifying, but want to own a new home subdivisions, may be the way to go. So the deals, they're particularly, now I'm in Morgan Hill, which is a suburb of Silicon Valley. There are new homes for sale in Morgan Hill. And if you go to Gilroy, which is a little further away, there's new homes for sale. If you go to Hollister, which is 45 minutes, oh, there's a whole bunch of them. So they're in your area. I'll bet that someplace not too far away are new home builders. But right now, there's a lot of inventory in the Los Angeles and San Diego markets. The market dynamics has changed where builders are sitting on a whole lot of inventory, which means they're oftentimes ready to make a deal. The time value of money. If you've, gone to business school, right, you might have heard about this concept. There's a big difference between the way builders approach selling a house and your typical resale seller. So first of all, if it's a resale and the seller has a low interest loan, then the seller doesn't want to sell because when they buy something, the interest rate is going to go up on their loan and they don't want to pay it. Also, they can be fussy about price. The seller will say, hey, if I don't get my price, I ain't selling, right? They'll have to carry me out this house. I'll just stick it out to the end. That's something that resale sellers oftentimes say, but not new home builders. To them, this is a business. And if you think about a grocery store and it's got stuff sitting on the shelf and it's reaching its sell-by date, what do? Well, they try to get it off the shelf. They try to have a clearance. They try to get rid of it because they want the money that they can reinvest in fresh produce. Well, it's the same thing. By the way, new home builders are dealers in real estate, like people are dealers in cars and things like that. So they want to get rid, and it's a business decision. And so when their inventory comes up, they're ready to sell. Now, they also sometimes have unbuilt lots that they're just sitting there. And they're kind of waiting for market conditions to improve before they start building. But that means that they may be urgent to negotiate. So what I'm saying is you might want to stop just showing resale homes. Those of you that have heard me do my what is the value proposition when you're working with the buyer, right? The first thing is that we're going to expose you to more properties and you're probably going to find on your own. And one of those properties, and this is not in the MLS kind of a property, are new home builders. And so I would say to buyers, not only am I going to show you properties in the multiple listing service, I'm going to show you expired listings that match your criteria, for sale by owners that match your criteria, pre-foreclosure properties that match your criteria, and new home builds that match your criteria. We're going to look at everything. Right? And I'm going to show you how you can actually, maybe do that. So there's pluses and minuses. The new construction are energy efficient, modern systems, builder warranties, costs are pretty predictable. You can customize stuff, and there's no deferred maintenance. It's brand new. The resale is that you're dealing with different kinds of neighborhoods. They have character. They have mature vegetation, trees and things like that, landscaping. They're settled. There's a more of a neighborhood feel. And oftentimes they're closer to downtown areas and transportation hubs and things like that. And you usually can just move right in, right? Whereas the new home, you may be buying a lot, which is going to be built on in the future. So, so there's a trade-off, right? Between it costs less, $194,000 on average, but you're also sacrificing some things. It's not necessarily for everybody. And by the way, Bottle, when we get to the point where you're going to talk, you're going to have to say something.
Correct. Yeah, definitely.
Are we there yet? All right.
No, I think I'm in 16th slide.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you have to watch out for when you're talking to clients and looking at new home builders is they have lots of different incentives to get you to buy and to get you to use their lender in particular. And one of them is what are called flex credits, which is where the builders offer a temporary rate buy down that reduces your first year payments. The most common structure is called a 2-1 buy down, where the interest rate is reduced by 10% in year 1 and 1% in year 2. So a 2-1 buy down, they actually can deliver sometimes a interest rate. This is a teaser rate. This isn't the qualifying rate, but this is the initial rate that can be low as about 2%, dramatically lower than the market. That's how much down it can be. And the market rate might be 6.5. Now you have to qualify for the 6.5, but your first year, your payments are a lot lower. I think Badal will talk about some of the options to doing that, right? But that's one of the things that builders are offering as an inducement to get people to buy the subdivisions. You also have to look at a hidden tax, which is called a mellow roofs. And mellow roofs is, it's called the Community Facilities District. And this is where, for example, they need schools. They want a park. They want streets and street lights and things like that. But the new home build, there isn't a tax base right now in order to support that. Plus, the people that live out in those areas generally aren't going to vote to have their property taxes increase, so the people in the gated community can have their own elementary school. They're not into that sort of stuff. So what the Community Facilities District is, it's a limited geographic area like the subdivision, and you pay money, could be a lot, could be $8,000 a year, right? It varies a lot. And that money that you're paying as part of the mellow roofs is what funds the community facilities, hence the Community Facilities District. And I've seen them really high. Like I've seen $8,000 ones, that's sort of on the high end. That affects your debt to income ratio, and it can usually last for a long time, 20 to 40 years. New home negotiations, this is an important part. A myth is that you can negotiate the price. Almost never is that true.
Oh, yeah.
This is important if you're an agent to explain to a buyer. Because a buyer might say, well, I don't need an agent to help me. I'm just going to go to the builder. And because I don't have an agent and they don't have to pay an agent, they'll probably give me a better deal. That's not how they work. They don't ever want to lower the price. JP, I hear you in the background. They don't ever want to lower the price. And the reason they don't want to lower, there's two big reasons. One, they know you're going to tell the neighbors. And when you tell all of the neighbors that you bought the house for less than they paid, then the neighbors all get together with torches and pitchforks and they storm the sales office demanding that they get a refund. They don't want to deal with that. Another more practical problem is, well, appraisals. So if they start cutting the price of their subdivision so that it's going down, then that affects the appraisals going forward and even the resale, right? Because if you paid a certain amount and now they're selling the same model brand new for less than what you paid, you understand that's going to affect your appraised value when it comes time to sell it. They don't want to cut the price. And the commission that they're going to pay to a buyer's agent is already baked in. They're not going to cut a better deal with the buyer because they don't have an agent. You need to understand that, and you need to explain that to the clients. Ask them, hey, if I don't have an agent, are you going to give me a lower price? No, that's the answer. So, but what can you negotiate? They're much more likely to negotiate incentives and bonuses and upgrades and things that do not directly affect what the recorded price is going to be when the property sells. Closing cost credits, lot premium reductions if they have standing inventory, design gallery credits, interest rate buy downs. Now, as a agent who's representing a new home buyer, your knowledge of how this works and what's going on is something that you would want to understand and learn how to leverage that on behalf of your clients. Big deal. I think I already mentioned this. Didn't I already do that? It's in Los Angeles and San Diego in particular, but you ought to be familiar. Didn't I already do that? Am I? Maybe I clicked on the wrong one and I'm going backwards. Oh my gosh. So the base price is almost never what people pay. It's an illusion, because there are lot premiums, certain lots cost more, there are flooring upgrades, there's other kinds of upgrades, there's hidden costs. So when they say from 700,000, they don't really mean 700,000 because there are a lot of hidden costs that are involved. The builder's mindset, sales velocity, which is turnover rate. Just like the grocery store, right? You don't want the kumquat sitting there for too long. You want them to move. You want them to go. And the same thing with the builders. Every day that a home is unsold adds to their carrying costs, interest, opportunity costs. Time value of money. They would rather close a deal today with concessions than wait weeks for a higher price. Cash flow and quarterly targets. That's an important thing, because a lot of the builders have specific sales targets that they're supposed to meet every quarter. And if they're falling behind, they will do what they need to, that they can do in order to increase the sales. Builders are more likely to give $20,000 in upgrades than a $5,000 price reduction because of all the problems with price reductions. At lower comps, more noises. Upgrades are valued at retail, but the cost of the builder wholesale, right? In other words, they charge you extra for the upgrades. They don't appear in the MLS or appraisal. And so stop asking for price cuts. Start asking for incentives, upgrades, design gallery credits, and you'll get a lot more out of them. Are we at your spot yet?
Yeah, I think next one is mine. So I can.
So they always have a preferred lender and they want the buyer to use it. And there's I'm going to maybe let me do one thing before we do that, if that's okay, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Is that okay? You don't mind? I'm driving, so what can you do? So there's two things that I wanted to talk about to make sure everybody understands before we get to the financing part. And there's some information coming up later about marketing. but I just want everybody to understand what they have. And first of all, in your MLS, you have a new home website. You do have a new home client relationship management system. You already do. Now, don't tell me, oh, my MLS doesn't have it. Your MLS has it. I don't know where it is. Ask them. Look around. But every MLS has this. Now, in my MLS, if I go to search, which is up here, and I go over to this is called New Home Source Pro. Every MLS has New Home Source Pro. And when you click on it, you're going to see this introduction site. And you'll notice up here, my name, I have my own website. Isn't that nice? And when I click on it, I can add social media. I haven't bothered to do that. I have a logo. I have a background. I could change the background. I could add footer images. All that I've really done is put in my DRE number. At the bottom, I have my contact information. And this is what my new home website looks like. You have one, whether you know it or not, right? Most agents have never clicked this far through it. Notice somebody can do a search. So I'm in Morgan Hill, all right, Morgan Hill, California. By default, it gives me a certain radius. If I click on search, here they are, right? And so a lot of these are Morgan Hill properties. These are new homes in Morgan Hill, which is very close to Silicon Valley. Notice the price, $953, $1 million. Now you might think, well, that's pretty expensive. Not for Silicon Valley, not for Silicon Valley. And so if somebody were looking at one, like how about this one here, just going to pull it up, the Lumberyard, this is a new development. Van Dale Homes, you see there's pictures of it, there's a price. Look at this part here. Somebody wants to schedule a tour, get more information, they would call me. If somebody fills out this little widget here, it's going to go to me. So who's done this for us? Well, the new home builders. They've done it. And so you could have this in your email signature. You could make an email that you send to your sphere of influence. You could go to the different new home builders in your area and you could make a video. Now, I just want to show you, just want to make sure I covered some of the marketing, but Sue, let me see, SOOMIN, Kim. Right. So this is a EXP agent, that's him there, in Austin, Texas. And the reason I'm pulling him up is you'll see his thing is new home subdivisions. And he goes to them, and he walks through and he talks about them and he posts them on his website. And he sells a lot of new homes. Now, I've worked with agents in Silicon Valley, and what we did, and by the way, I've given this sermon hundreds of times, like hundreds of times, over a long period of time. How many of the congregation actually said, you're right, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to make money with new home subdivisions? One, that's it. And what she did is when she heard me go into this and I had a presentation about what you would say about why to work with, she went to Gilroy. Now, if you're not familiar with the area, it's a suburb of Silicon Valley, and she went to Hollister. And she went to, like I suggested, all of the new home builders. And you walk in and she's got her business card and she says, "Hi, I'm a real estate agent. I just wanted to, I have people that are always asking about new home subdivisions. I thought I'd come by and take a look at what you've got. What can you tell me? Do you have any special, things coming up with upgrades or anything like that?" She'd pick up the brochures. She would talk to the salespeople. She would say, "By the way, I'd like to make a video walkthrough so I can share it with my out of area clients." They say, "Yeah, go ahead," right? And then she would walk through and make videos and then push that out on social media in San Jose. And what was happening is she was finding people that owned condominiums. This one guy had a 2-1 condo next to the 580 sound wall near Santa Clara, and he was able to sell that, and he and his wife, and buy a 4-bedroom brand new house in Gilroy. Now, there's some commute issues, but not everybody needs to commute. I had a client that was in a very low price point for San Jose, and all of the stuff in that price point was just scary stuff. It was horrible. And I got them into a new home in Los Banos, which is about an hour away. But, the husband was a truck driver, the wife worked from home, and they had, for a really low price, a 4-bedroom, brand new house, everything, all the appliances. So she not only was selling and getting paid compensation for selling the new home, she was getting listings, because people realized they could sell what they own and they could buy something and upgrade dramatically. Not everybody needs to commute, right? And then in my area, Gilroy had a Caltrain station that goes all the way to San Francisco, and people would park there and they would ride it to San Mateo or to wherever they were in Silicon Valley, have a coffee. It has Wi-Fi. But what she was able to present is that she knew all of the new home builders in that area. And when she would talk to people, it was obvious she knew all of the new home builders. And she was talking about which ones are having the best deals and how many were left and which ones were selling and what the upgrades were. And people wanted to work with her. She never gave money back, never kicked back money. But, she had value. The other thing I just want to point out from this is that if I go back and I notice there's a section called clients. Oh, and if I click on that, these are some of the people that I had set up searches for. So I would create a new client. Notice you could even import people, but you don't want to do that unless they really want. And I would set up a search for them. And what would happen, they were interested in Tracy, which is a little farther out, and I would set up searches for the new homes that were in that area. They would be getting emails branded with me, my name and my contact information with pictures of the new homes and all of that sort of stuff. And I was getting emails from the new home builders, because this is, who built the site, saying to me, "Thank you for registering your client." Yeah. Now, as we're going to point out when we get to a little bit later, and I want Badal to have as much time as he needs, so I'm going to skip around a little bit. And that I don't think I really need, but I'm always doing stuff. Where am I? I'm going to then I'll turn it over to Badal. But one of the things that you need to know is that you need to be there almost all the time at the beginning. When that buyer shows up at the new home subdivision, if you're not there, then you won't be registered. And if you're not registered, when they show up the first time, you're not getting paid. It's just the way it is. Now, what the new home builders were doing, because I used their software and they were happy with me, what they were doing is and I'm not saying that this is true for the ones in your area, you'd have to ask them, but what they were telling me, that because I had emailed them the link to their subdivision, they had registered those people with me, even though I hadn't gone with them yet. I'm not saying that all of the builders are doing this in your area, but if you set somebody up in one of those searches, you might get that response from the new home builders. You want to be there, right? Because if you don't want to end up giving most of your commission back, you need to have value. And that means you're going to help them with the process, right? Some of them allows you to register online. Some of them, when they're desperate, I've had them come and buy pizza for real estate agents, and they would say, hey, if somebody's on the way, just, give me a call and I'll register them for you. It depends on their level of motivation, but generally speaking, you have to be there. Now, I'm not really going to get into this too much, but if you're on my team and you're dealing with a new home builder and you want some help reading the contract and the forms and all of that sort of stuff, reach out to me. I've seen a lot of them. If it's a new home, you don't get a TDS, you don't get an SPQ, but you get something called the white paper. And the white paper is called the final public report. There's a pink paper, which is called the preliminary public report. They can actually start selling in the sense that they can register people and take deposits, but contracts are not valid until the white paper is issued. The white paper has a lot of information about that subdivision and the financing and the encumbrances, and it's something that you might want to go over with them. Now, if you're saying, I've never seen one of these and I don't really want to go over it with somebody because I don't even know what you're talking about, that's fine. I've seen too many of them, and I would help you with that if you had a client. I would explain to them what it is and what it means and what's important in it. Again, the credit, I've already talked about that, is much easier to get than a price reduction. There are certain times of the year where they're much more likely to make deals. Quarter end opportunities. They run on a quarter system. They have sales goals by quarter. As it's approaching the end of a quarter, they become more enthusiastic about making deals with potential buyers. During holidays, there's a diminished demand. And so if you're visiting during these times and they have, you could go during the peak times to access the inventory and learn about it, but if you go at the right time, you can oftentimes get a better deal. This is something I share with buyers, by the way. There's the written word rule, which means verbal promises don't mean anything. We'll throw in upgraded flooring, yeah. Landscape is going to be completely. So one of the things that you would want to point out to people is that you could help them get all of these verbal promises put in writing and protect them when it comes to buying the property. They're notorious for the salespeople making promises, but it's not in writing and then it doesn't actually come through. You would like all written confirmation on incentives. You'd like to review every addendum, document the verbal promises, never rely on trust me, or we always do that. And again, if you're on my team and you've never seen a new home subdivision contract and all the addendums and you want some help, that's what I do. The builder's rep, although friendly, is not on your side. The builder's rep represents the builder. And if you don't have an agent as a buyer representing you and advising you, you're relying on, this is like getting divorced and using the spouse's attorney, right? You're relying on the person who represents the seller exclusively to give you advice and to help you fill out the contract. Now, they don't usually have a lot of negotiation in some parts of the contract, but having your own agent that represents you can help you negotiate a better deal, and at least you know what you're getting yourself into. The model home, what you see is what you get, but not always. So the model homes are usually upgraded versions. They have upgraded just about everything because they're the model and they want people to buy homes in the subdivision. And so a lot of the models have upgrades that are not included in the basic price. And you need to know that so that when your clients are looking at the model, but they're going to be buying a home that isn't even built, they need to understand what they're not getting. They're not getting the crown molding. They're not getting the garage storage systems, right? That's not included. And so you would want, one of the things you would help them with is the reality check, where you go through the list and you figure out what are all the different upgrades that your client's going to want and what do they cost and how much is that going to affect. Pre-drywall inspections. I've had, during the time when new home builders did not need us and they were not paying any compensation, I had clients that would pay me. One guy paid me $5,000 simply to read the contract and make suggestions. And one of my suggestions was you ought to get an inspection, a termite inspection, a property inspection. There are a lot of companies that do pre-drywall inspections that check on everything before they board up the walls and you can't see. Take a look at what the insulation is and all of that. And by the way, the buyer said to me, termite inspection, it's a brand new house. They haven't even finished it yet. You know, how could there be termites? And my answer was, there are termites at the lumberyard. Right? There's termites at the lumberyard. Can there be termites in a brand new house? The answer is yes. So we ordered professional inspections. This is not what the builder wants you to do. They want you, the buyer who's maybe never bought a house and doesn't understand construction, to walk through and look around and say, oh yeah, oh, looks good to me. But by arranging stuff like this, you can show value. Site selection, not all lots are equal. And we're not going to get into all the details, but the purpose of this today was so for you to see what all the different kinds of services you could help somebody with if they're buying a new home. Not all builders are equal. Google them, ask AI. What about the Toll Brothers? Ask them about that particular community that the Toll Brothers have or Lennar has. And you're going to find people are talking about it. And this is something, if you're specializing in helping people buy new homes, you ought to know which of the builders are doing good and which are not. The white report I already mentioned is it's called the final public report, which is required that they give the buyer, and the buyer has a chance to read it. And they have to get, you know, and I think I'm duplicating myself a little bit. I don't know, maybe. So some of this is information that I'm going to let you read because I want Badal to talk about financing. I also want you to know that this is somewhat comprehensive. In the folder, I put together a relatively short value proposition that you could discuss with a potential buyer on the subject of why you could use an agent to help you buy a new home. Right? What is your value? How will it save them money? How will they get more house for less money? And we aren't supposed to say this won't cost you anything because the NAR settlement says we're not supposed to say that, but this really won't, because the builder does not change the price, whether or not the buyer has an agent helping them. They don't do it. So it's baked in, it's not going to change. The builder is going to pay. They've already announced it. And by the way, I go through this, and you should, when you go visit the new home subdivision, just ask them, how much are you compensating cooperating brokers? How much? They'll tell you, right? Register. Well, this is what I would do. I would walk in with the clients. You have your business card out, right? They would see it, and And I tell my clients, why don't you go start looking at the models? And then I would give the business card and then they're to register and they give me the little registration card. And then I would ask them, how much are you compensating cooperating agents? And then they would tell me, and I would say, great. And I would, anything else I need to know about upgrades or specials or discounts or anything going on that I could tell them, and they would tell me, and they'd give me brochures, and then I'd go and join the clients at the walking through the new home. All right, so why don't we, Vidal, do you want to take over now?
Yeah, let me do that.
Did I give you enough time?
Yes, we have enough time. Let me share my screen if that's okay.
Sure, I will stop sharing.
All right. So let me start with this. Uh, so whenever there is a new construction, every builder offering lower interest rate, right? So that's one of the, like, your client come to you, hey, this new construction they are offering 4% or 3%. That's amazing, I want to buy this one, not the other house versus the new construction, right? So that's your first question or first comment from your client. Hey, this is, they are offering 4%, 3%. Now, question for you, is this the qualifying rate when they offering 3% or 2% or 3.5% versus current rate is 6.5% or 6%, some of the cases 5.5%? Is this a qualifying rate? The answer is no, right? Whenever the builder offering this rate is a temporary buy down rate. Means, what is temporary buy down rate? And who don't know, who knows that? It's a rate you buy down for first year or second year or third year. Okay, it's a mechanism that all the builders use or seller use in order for client to have a lower initial year monthly payment, right? That's what they use. It called temporary buy down. Does that affect the loan amount you have or client have? No, it doesn't affect, because the qualifying rate is the current interest rate. So this has to be clear when you are talking to your client. They are interested in first time home, oh sorry, they are interested in the new construction. That I'm not saying it is not a good idea to buy the new construction. I'm just saying the the reason they are buying, which is valid reason or not, right? So let me start with this. So it's a buy down rate, temporary buy down rate. It is good idea to lower clients monthly payment. Does that does that save the saving is a long term saving or short term saving? It's just a short term benefit. It's not a lifelong saving or long term wealth they are saving. It's just a temporary. It called teaser rate. Okay, so just to, when you talk to your client, new construction versus, like, living in remote places versus living in a right places. So does that, the payment will be high in second third year if it is 3-1 buy down. I have a whole session for buy downs where I explain 3-1, 2-1, 1-0 buy down. We'll go deep dive in future session. But um so when anyone offer this buy down rate, most of the cases the interest rate is little higher than the qualifying interest rate is little higher. So for example, if it is 6%, current interest rate is 6%, then when I'm offering buy down rate, I may have like 6.5 and calculating buy down. So 6.5, 5.5, 4.5, 3.5. So then I'm offering client 3.5 buy down rate. So builders usually do that. So we have to make sure that you understand, client understand the overall mortgage what mortgage and what loan they are going into, and is it really benefit, right? So sometime it is, sometime it is not. So we have to get make sure it's clear for client and you. um, and it is a short term relief, not the long term planning. um, so how we tackle with that, right? Like, do if client is interested in getting a better house compared to builders buy down rate, there are down payment assistance program where we able to secure up to 5% on buy down payment assistance, which can be used to buy down the rate permanently. Okay, so compare first 3 year buy down versus permanent buy down. So down there are down payment assistance available for either first time home buyer, the 3% down payment from cal hfa, and there are other private equity buy down available, down payment assistance available up to 5%, where some of the programs allow, after 5 years you don't have to pay back. So government programs allows that, so you can use that money. So for example, you have a 3% buy down, you can use that money to do permanent buy down instead of doing temporary buy down, which will help on a long term, right? So just to clarify, uh, let me get back to the slide. When we talk about 3 to 1 buy down, that doesn't mean Envoy don't have that program. We have that program. That programs require seller credit, so builders use that mechanism to buy down, right? Because builders are seller of their property, so builders are increasing the uh, price of the house and giving you a temper seller credit in terms of 3 to 1 buy down. Envoy has that program, so Envoy has a 3 to 1 buy down, 2 1 buy down, 1 0 buy down. 3 to 1 and 2 1 buy downs are seller using seller credit. So seller pays that buy down, which is temporary buy down, and we have a long term solution where permanent buy down can be used. Okay, so so when we are talking about first time home buyer, so let's think about that. Lots of good programs available with for down payment assistance for the first time home buyer. And I have a program, if you, even though client is not first time home buyer, they are buying second house, so GSFA and CBC allow, those two programs that Envoy has allows second time home buyer, third time home buyer. Means the only rules is client is planning to live in their property. That will the prime, it will be for the primary housing. So when client is planning to live in the property, then there is a down payment assistance program allows you to have a buy down, permanent buy down. And I would, so as we may see those requests coming from like first time home buyers, I there is a great program in California gonna start in February called Dream for All program. So I want to give you quick pick on that program. um so if you guys don't know what is the Dream for All, California government, there's a division called cal hfa. They introduced this program. They gives up to 20% down payment assistance up to $150,000 cap. Okay, great program for first time home buyer, first generation home buyer. So there's some rules and regulation, but this programs is starting, registration is starting soon. What is this program? This program is shared appreciation loan. Okay, so basically it's another second lien on your property, which is almost $150,000. Okay, 20% down payment or max on cap on 150K. So it's a shared appreciation, means they gave you 20% and 80% loan from Envoy. Okay, so you don't pay like you paying zero from your pocket if you qualify, and if you win this voucher, you get, you buy the house from $0 from your pocket. Now when you live in that house, you build that equity. So what this program allows you to, that equity you build that will be shared with Cal HFA. Means once you planning to sell or transfer the house, you will repay original loan amount, which is 100,000, for example, $150,000 or 20% down payment, whatever the loan amount you pay, and you pay a percentage of appreciation. Let me go deep dive. So the idea is they give you money, you live in that house for XYZ years, 5 years, 10 years, and when you're selling it or when you transferring to, then you pay back that loan amount to Cal HFA, right? Two mechanism. One, moderated income option, so where AMI is 80% or one between 80 to 120%. Um, I have a whole big 1 hour session tomorrow. So if you're interested, let Angela know. They will send you the invitation. But when you grow that appreciation in 5 years, for example, you pay 20% of that appreciated value back to Cal HFA. Or so this is when you have a income AMI between 80 to 120. What is that income? I have a link on that from their website, so you can. So client has a 120K income or 250K income or 300K income. So based on zip code, based on county, there is a different income considered as a moderated income or low income. Okay, so using that mechanism, the shared appreciation, how much appreciated value, how much that appreciate, what is the percentage of that appreciated value goes back to Cal HFA. That is a calculation based on that AMI. So second, so in this scenario, when you have a above lower income, above moderate income, you pay appreciated value, which is in this case is 28,000. So you bought the home 500,000 value, 400,000 is a mortgage, first mortgage, and down payment assistance is $100,000. After 5 years, the home value become 640, and you're selling that house. So appreciation, 20% appreciation is $28,000. So you pay back $128,000, 100,000, which is your initial down payment assistance, plus a 28,000 appreciation in case of moderate income. And there is another if your income is, if client income is lower than 80 AMI, in that case you just pay back 15% of appreciation. So in this case you just pay back 21,000 instead of 28,000 in case of lower income. I am going to explain this in detail tomorrow. uh, so who is eligible for this program? First time home buyer, first generation. So one of the borrower must be first generation home buyer. What is first generation home buyer? First generation home buyer whose parents don't own the home. That is first generation home buyer. First time home buyer means in last 3 years you never own the home. So first generation home buyer, one of the borrower required to be first generation home buyer. All the borrowers must be first time home buyer, must be California residents, and income requirement is based on the link I shared here. So you can review the income requirement. Let me see if I can open, but okay, let's not go deep dive. We don't have that much time. um Key benefits for this program: 20%, 150,000 up to 150,000 down payment assistance coming from, so then client able to buy from $0. Registration is opening from 24th February. So any of your client are hesitating to buy, request them to register here. Okay. To register on this website, you need pre-approval letter. I can help you with that. Envoy Mortgage is approved lender, so I can help you with the pre-approval application on CalHFA, which is starting on 2 weeks. So let me know when you have question about this program. And best thing that when you buying using California's down payment, like 150K up to 150K, you are appreciating value. You are building equity using someone, from that program, which is the best thing, because whatever equity you build, you just pay off a percentage of that back to the program, and that will keep that program running, right? Because when you pay back that money, someone else get that opportunity again to buy the house. So the whole program is designed for first time home buyer, first generation home buyer, and great program. I spoke with couple of who won the voucher last year, and they they feeling amazing because they able to buy the house. Application, it's a very simple application process. Once registration open, you register on their official website. You don't you need documents. Okay, so once you win that voucher, so it's a lottery system basically. 50,000 people or 10,000 people enroll in that program. Not necessarily everyone is qualifying because there is a income requirement based on the zip code. So once they find out the application, approved application, then they do the lottery, and they will there's the people they assign these vouchers to. There's some documentation requirement, and once you want this voucher, come back to Envoy Mortgage, come back to me, and I can help you with finishing the application and use that fund toward the down payment and the closing cost. um Okay, I think documentation, simple documentation, you need pre-approval letter coming from approved lenders. So Envoy Mortgage is approved lender. You need valid government issued ID from passport, including driver license to show you are California residents. And if you are, if client is living in foster care, then documentation for that, and proof of income, asset, and credit that will required for this program. Any questions? This is very. I finish in 14 minutes. So yeah. So I have a, uh expanded version of this session tomorrow at 12. So anyone who is interested will go deep dive and help you with the question answers. And if just reach out to your clients. Okay, whoever hesitating, don't have down payment, um, talk to them. And this programs allows FHA loans as well, so it's not just a conventional loan. Programs allow FHA loan and conventional loan, any other loan that qualifying for regular loan. That this is just a additional 20% coming from CalHFA. Question.
What was the credit score?
uh
Minimum credit?
640. So 620 to 640 is actually 640, to be
Okay.
precise. Yeah, but there are some guideline under 640 also, on up to 620. But there, yeah, good better rate start with 640. Cool. Michael, back to you.
Any other questions? Don't everybody blurt out one at once.
Yeah, so there are some links in that presentation. So just make sure click on that and I'm also one phone call away, text away for answering any question. But yeah, I think get benefit of this. Like if 5 of your client register and one of them win those voucher, it's good education and help to the buyers.
And I'm putting in your email in your other link
Awesome.
directly into the
Yeah.
chat.
Hi, Michael. Can we access this presentation just to go through the sites as the pages or something?
There's a PDF version in that folder.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the whole thing is there. And a short summary of the value, because the presentation was designed to explain stuff. And when you're talking to a client, you just need to give them reasons why working with you is going, they'll be better off than not.
Thank you.
All right. Is that it? Everybody? Going once, going twice. All right, well, I'm calling it. Thank you for everyone for showing up. I'm glad you were here. We'll be doing something interesting next week too. And this Thursday, I'm sort of disappointed at how many people have signed up, but it's called How to Earn a Six-Figure Income in Real Estate. And apparently not everybody's interested in earning a six-figure income in real estate.
They don't want 6 figure, they want 5 figures.
Well, some of them are afraid they'll have to step back, right, in order to get there, I'm sure. But it wouldn't hurt to learn how to do that too. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.